recording now. Okay, let me just share my screen.
Valentino has made it. Welcome, Valentino.
Yeah, thank you. It's a crazy morning, sorry.
Welcome. Okay, so welcome everyone. So just a quick reminder from the organizers. So this is the fourth breakout. Basically, these are two panels on EOSC Readiness and the Europe's data world. So basically, the first panel will be chaired by Federica Tanlogo, who joins us from GARR and EOSC Pillar. So this will be, the first panel will be, the topic is a dashboard approach to EOSC Readiness indicators, co-designing the way forward. And then we will move on to the next panel, which is on NEANIAS, Pause for Cloud, Triple, ENODE, 4 EOSC projects join forces to shape Europe's data and services world. So this will be chaired by Eleni Petra, who joins us from Athena Research Center and NEANIAS. So I pass the floor to Federica Tanlogo. Federica, you may now begin. Yes.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. May I ask Antonella to start sharing the slides? So welcome to this mini session where we are briefly presenting the Infra-EOSC 5 landscaping task force work on the indicators and in particular our dashboard approach. So first, let me introduce why we did this. Our task force was born from the objective of trying to harmonize the different landscaping and survey activities carried out by our projects and contribute to the overall landscaping effort by the landscaping working group. But working with these topics, we soon realized, you can go to the next slide, I think, Antonella. So, we realized how much time and effort is needed for a good landscape analysis and how quick it becomes obsolete. And so we saw the opportunity to go from a static landscape to living indicators. So the idea was that it was possible to define a set of indicators that could help identifying the improvement areas as well as success stories, map progresses over time, and more generally inform strategic decisions, including funding and policy making at the national level and also at the European level. So with so many uses of our indicators, it is not surprised that we received quite a lot of interest on this topic. So what we did was to go for initial proposal that was then submitted to 2 rounds of validations by the stakeholders and improved with their feedback. Between the 2 rounds, we got more than 200 qualified feedbacks from key stakeholders, including research infrastructure managers, national initiative managers, the working group members, and noticeably more than 1/3 of the whole governing board took active part in this consultation. This allowed us to refine our initial list of indicators, which are now 18 from 5 micro areas, and our methodologies. And we realized it was time to move a step forward and to test our approach in real life. So we created a project for a POC of an indicator dashboard that was going to collect automated and non-automated information. And we applied to the EOSC co-creation. So the proposal was approved and started work in February. The objectives are to operationalize the indicators, check the availability of and select trusted data sources, define a dashboard model, also proposing a possible implementation, and test the approach with real users. So here I introduce Antonella Passani, who will show you where we are with this activity and what the next steps and challenges would be. After a lightning talk, we'll have time for questions and discussion. And you can ask the questions directly in the chat meanwhile. And afterwards, give your views through Slido. Please, Antonella.
Good morning, everybody. I reduce the. Okay, so what we did so far, we are following, as the working group also did, a co-design approach. So we did the two co-design section with the landscaping working group in order to better define the mission of the EOSC Readiness dashboard, map the primary and secondary users and develop the personas, and define the indicators to be included in the country page and the contextual information. Let me take a moment for explaining this. One of the key requirements that emerged indeed was the fact that given the diversity among the countries and the different level of development of the community and the policies for open science, it is important to give the user of the EOSC Readiness dashboard the capability and the information needed to contextualize a performance on a given indicator in a given moment. So this list of indicators has been developed, and the country page also, and then the functional and technical requirement. Then we did a step forward in working directly with so far 4 communities: Italy, Serbia, Slovenia, and Portugal. Sorry, I didn't write Portugal. In order to check the data availability at national level, and also what is the ideal process for feeding the dashboard in the different national communities. And of course, the differences emerged also at this level. Then now we are doing bilateral meetings with other stakeholders such as Open Air or also EOSC Marketplace, for example, in order to see if there is the possibility to converge on common indicators and data flows. Indeed, the main functionality that our proof of concept has at the moment is the capability to harvest information from trusted data sources automatically, but also to use and update and upload the data in a manual way. Indeed, as we will see in a second, the availability of open data sources is really scarce, let's say. Is still ongoing. I mean, the process that we are, while we are developing this proof of concept in the same, in parallel, the national communities are developing their national catalogs, the EOSC Marketplace is taking shapes. So we are working in parallel, and the availability is definitely reduced. Assure transparency. I mean, the picture is very small, I know, but there is a part of the dashboard in which the administrator, the super users, can insert the data, and other in which they can monitor the data. So be able to see what are the data sources, who uploaded the data, and also the date, in order to assure that there is they are updated regularly, and this check can be done easily. And then there is a section for the visualization, in which we can we propose, I mean, by considering the requirement we gather so far, to have the information at European level, and then the first in the high part of the dashboard, and in the lower part of the dashboard, being able to visualize those contextual data and contextual information that can allow a better reading, a better understanding of the performances of the various countries. Now, considering, I mean, as Federica says, there are 18 indicators and divided in five areas. From the analysis we are carrying on is not finished yet. We are working on it, and any input is more than welcome. you see in green those data sets that can be automatically incorporated into the dashboard right now, today. In orange, the information that are available but not in an automatic way, so need to be entered manually. And of course, here our work is to design a proposal for a governance in who should enter the data, which kind of organization, in how, and on in which time frame. And in red, those information that at the present stage are not available in automatic or manual way. And this is these are the others indicators related to the policies, to the infrastructures, and the training. As I was saying, most of the work is now ongoing in different countries. The attention and the responsiveness is really high, and it's really interesting, and is the ideal time, let's say, to develop a shared governance model, or to let's say to start proposing a way to make the for example, the national catalogs to converge in a way that can feed the dashboard in a more easy and automatic way. So these are the challenges. So the lack of data sets available at European level, providing the information for all the European countries in the same way. But we are working also on this in looking at those data sets that exist, like the ones in open air on, for example, on publications or on policies, and find a proxy to operationalize some of the indicators, but also put the NODE or EOSC marketplace. And then we are doing this gap analysis in 5 countries by the end of the project. And we are, of course, working at the technical level to make this work in the dashboard and go forward in refining the way the dashboard work.
Okay, thank you very much, Antonella. Here you can find our contacts in case you wish to learn more. This next slide. Now we move for the quick interactive part. So these are our panelists. Because the time is short, I won't go into their introduction, and I assume that most of you know them. Please, Rob, would you show the first question while the people start answering? So, okay, my first question to help Antonella moving forward with these activities, what should be the process to include new indicators into dashboards, like, for instance, the ones that are in the STRIA, or the ones that are of interest for the EOSC Association that wasn't there when we started working? And I'd like to start with Volker. Please, Volker, the floor.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is a, of course, continuous progress with the dashboard. The dashboard now is a tool, and we have to fill it with meaningful parameters. And this is a collaboration effort between the different partners of the EOSC. So at the steering board, for example, the member states, we are working on putting up monitoring for the contributions on the national level to the EOSC. We are in the first step there to make a survey with the different countries. This then all has to be discussed together with the association, but also with other partners like EOSC Future, with the 5B task force, and finally this has to be agreed upon at the partnership board. One point I want to make is that we are talking about key performance indicators. These are indicators. This is not, can never cover the whole truth. So let's be pragmatic, let's find compromises there, and let's not work until eternity on the definition of the different indicators. One nice example, I think, is EDOROM. You don't need a KPI to know that EDOROM is a success. On the other hand, you know, a lot of projects, probably from personal experience, who present nice indicators, but a lot of colleagues know they are not so performant. So let's be practical and let's move forward. And of course, it's an ongoing discussion, and we are going to hopefully agree on something at the partnership board on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Volker. And now I'd like to give the floor to Garrett.
Thanks, Federica. So just checking, can you hear me okay? Yeah, and here, just to be clear, I'm speaking for Work Package 2 on EOS policy and strategy alignment for EOS Future. So in Work Package 2, we have a lot of overlap with the activities that you're doing, as you know. We will be developing a definition, let's say, of EOS readiness and linking that to a set of indicators to monitor the readiness at a national level. And then also we will be implementing what is going to be called an EOS observatory, basically a similar dashboard to help monitor the readiness. So the key points there for us are who defines ultimately what readiness is, and then following on from that, where do we collect the data, and who ultimately decides that that data is good and who validates that data. So obviously we're going to build on the work that's been done with the task force landscaping. We're already in contact with you. And the next steps then are to reach out to the EOSC Association and also to reach out to the EOSC Steering Board, two important entities in the EOS Partnership Board, to help see what set of indicators are needed, are useful, and how this dashboard can support the EOSC Association and can support the Steering Board in terms of monitoring for the EOS Partnership, linking to the SRIA, the KPIs in the SRIA, and then perhaps also other indicators that may be useful for the EOSC Association or for the Steering Board for the member states. And thereby also noting that for the automatic side, we'll be looking to data sources that exist. Potentially, for instance, the EOS portal itself will be able to extract data automatically from there, possibly also cutting it across countries, even lower down into institutions perhaps. And then also on top of that, linking it maybe to data coming in from the Open Science Observatory and so forth. And then for the manual side, because we do see a quantitative and qualitative side, we'd be looking to see who should be feeding this information in manually from member states, and that data is validated and that it's useful then for the association, for member states, and also for the.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks like there is quite a lot of coordination to do, and it won't be that easy. So, Ronan, would you like to tell us your view?
Thanks a million, Federica. Good morning. And yes, following on from Volker and Garrett, I think inclusivity as to how we define these indicators is hugely important, and great to see that. Because I think everyone has a vested interest in reporting, capturing and reporting indicators, so that's good. So I think we're pushing an open door in that regard. But certainly from experience locally in Ireland is, I know you mentioned contacting real users, which is great, Federica, contacting real users, and then the dashboard can actually validate who entered the data. That's good. But I know certain aspects of the indicators can actually cross multiple ministries locally and different NRENs, and some of the federation stats come from different sources. So I think the investment that you put in up front to get the right actors in the group and being inclusive in that, and naturally working with the steering board and the EOS Future project and getting common understanding of that. I'm really pleased to see the dashboard and anything automated, because that generally makes it easier, because I think it has to be made easy. And even just the design of the dashboard, it just narrows the eye when you're reporting the data. Because it's important, Volker mentioned, it's a key piece is measuring the in-kind contribution here. And naturally there's KPIs in the SRIA and ultimately in the MOU, but everything percolates up to that. And a key piece is measuring that in-kind contribution. So this should be very useful in informing that, and maybe even validating some of those measurements, because I think we can do some validation against federation stats, maybe procurement stats as well. just to give us that extra bit of triangulation. But inclusivity, great to see it, and automation. Very good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. From the comments we received in the Slido, I'd like just to highlight one thing, which is cross-check feasibility and effort to provide it versus added values to have an additional KPI. I think also effort is an important point, and timing, because of course we want a framework to be flexible, but we don't want to change indicators every 5 minutes. So we have to think in the long term. And I think this comment is very useful. Thank you. I'd like to move to the next question. And so we talked about EOSC readiness, but are there any other use cases that come to mind for a dashboard like the one we are developing? And in this case, I'd like to start from the EOSC 5 projects, and maybe from Joy.
Yeah, I think it's important, while we're thinking about EOSC and we're all very enthusiastic about it, I think it's important to realize that all of the stakeholders that have to make this reality have lots of other things that they have to deal with too. So they're reporting a lot of other indicators and KPIs for other various reasons. So for instance, the research infrastructures, which play a key role. There's been a lot of work going on over the last couple of years to develop common indicators for the ESCRIs around long-term sustainability. Some of those have to deal with data. And I just feel that, rather than us coming up with a different set of slightly the same questions, I think it's going to be important for us to try and harmonize what these indicators tell us. And if they do align, it'll make that process easier for everybody who has to be involved. So if we can make the eventual dashboard something that is useful to more than just the EOSC Association, I think that will help to make the case for investing in the time and effort needed to identify the sources and to do all that kind of preparatory work. So I think it's important for us to try and do a little bit of alignment as we're refining these first set of indicators, and to try and make sure that we're not putting too much of a burden on the people that we expect to be measured. And as I think we've heard before, getting them involved and helping to define them, I think will be really important.
Okay, thank you. Ilias, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you, Federica. Hi, everybody. Let me start by saying a very few words about our project and how it is linked with the EOSC readiness indicators, in order to better understand, reply also to the question from our point of view, and to build also on what Joy said. Very briefly, one of our key project objectives is the establishment of the National Open Science Cloud Initiatives, the so-called NEANIAS, in 15 member states and associated countries in the region of the Southeastern Europe. To make this a reality and to support the countries, we have presented a holistic framework, which we call Blueprint, and you can find it online to INODE. I will put the link to the chat. So the Blueprint is a comprehensive guide which aims to support the establishment of the NEANIAS. Specifically, it includes 3 elements: a set of indicative indicators, the workflows for setting up the initiatives, as well as operational aspects such as governance, strategy, sustainability issues, etc. The main advantage of the Blueprint is that it can be further customized by any country and can be used as a valuable tool to advance the National Open Science Cloud agenda, support the establishment of different types of national initiatives at different level of maturity, monitor their progress, and facilitate at the end of the day the governance of EOSC. Now let's focus on the indicators we proposed on EFOS Europe. First of all, we built our work on the EOSC readiness indicators and the outcomes from the EOSC landscaping task force. Because our main objective was to support and monitor the establishment of the NEANIAS, we needed to introduce an extra set of indicators focused specifically on this aspect. Thus, at the case of the NEANIAS, if a NEANIAS does not exist, this extra set of indicators was required specifically to support its establishment. EFOS Europe indicators also can be found at the second working proposal for living indicators. Returning now to the question, and in a similar way, we used and adapted the EOSC readiness indicators An idea is to use the dashboard for the benefit of the different scientific communities within the member states and associated countries. For example, in EFOS Europe, we have already launched demonstrators in 4 different scientific communities, which we are expected to test the first set of services integrated into EOSC. Thus, an idea of community-driven approach to measure EOSC readiness may work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our last statement from Valentino.
Okay, can I please check that my audio and video are okay?
Yes, fine.
Yeah, good. So yeah, I'm also joining from one of the regional projects, which is the EOSC Synergy, and we have been using indicators during parts of our work in the project. So for the landscape analysis in the 7 countries that we are looking at, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Spain, Portugal, UK, and the Netherlands. And I think we have actually already been, using them for a number of different use cases. So one is a landscape analysis. Another one which we are doing recently is a gap analysis. So we are looking at the, trying to compare the countries using certain indicators in order to understand the areas where there are major policy gaps. And one of the goals would be to try to formulate recommendations for harmonizing those policies. Readiness is actually a different use case as well. So I think that there are several. I mean, certainly there are several use cases that we can think of by using indicators. I also think that measuring readiness is not the same as measuring performance. The sort of KPIs in the SRIA that have been mentioned several times are not exactly the same as measuring the readiness of a country with respect to the EOSC. I want to make the point that I think there's a lot of discussion still needs to be taking place at appropriate stakeholder level in order to understand what we mean by readiness. I mean, there was a discussion within the proof of concept group, whether we can try to start indicating some benchmarking for that. We thought that it was, probably a bit out of scope for our project. I believe it's an important point that needs to be addressed at some point. Perhaps the last point I want to make is that I find personally, but also from the point of view of the project, the work of the dashboard extremely valuable, especially the emphasis on getting information automatically, and that's obviously there's a long way to go in that direction. A lot of coordination needed, but it's certainly something that would be extremely useful in the operation of the EOSC. I stop here because I believe that we don't have so much time, though I would love to say more. But, thank you.
Thank you, Valentino. I think that we really have to pass the floor to the other panel, but please contact us if you want to follow our activity, and we will soon organize a dedicated workshop to validate our approach. So thank you for being with us, and we are leaving one last question as a homework in the chat. Please, Eleni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Federica. Thank you very much. And we share the screen. We are ready to move to the next panel with not only one project, much more. Rob, can you share our screen? Or may I ask? Okay, so the panel is going to be dedicated on the 4 out of 5 projects of the same call, of the call Infra 02 2019. And it's all about bringing thematic and not only services to the EOSC ecosystem. So the flow of this panel is going to be the following. Every project is going to present for 3 minutes the highlights of every project, the project and the progress of every project up to now. And then we leave 15 minutes for the audience, for the participants to have a live audience discussion for our findings, for our perspective of communication and liaison and further cooperation. So may I have the presentation? Yes. So here we are, all these 4 out of 5 projects together. We already started talking and discussion about the perspectives. We have already organized the Blue Research and Innovation Days with Phosphor Cloud, and we've been cooperating with Triple. We have already by NEANIAS signed a memorandum of understanding, and we're looking forward for the other cooperation. So next slide, please. I'm starting very briefly with NEANIAS. NEANIAS is one of the 5 projects of the same call. Next slide. As I said, the call is Infra EOSC 02 2019. The project ID, 36 funds, 21 partners for 10 countries. Next slide, please. And which is the main goal of NEANIAS? To bring to deploy on EOSC ecosystem 3 main thematic area services, 3 services and more from underwater environment, from atmospheric and from space. And not only that, only to provide core services for the whole EOSC ecosystem like AAI, catalog services, data sharing, machine learning techniques for common understanding, common usage and deployment from other projects and other services on EOSC. Also nurture new business opportunities coming from the deployment and integration of our services. And of course, power up EOSC. Everything with innovation, activities, innovation direction in all our work. Next slide, please. And this is the scope of NEANIAS, the 3 parts and the 3 groups of our services, linking and be connected to research infrastructures, and also the main focus using all our services and all our offerings for serving the communities, not only researchers, not only academics, but also business and policymakers. Next slide, please. And this is the first set of our services coming from underwater ecosystem. The first service dealing with the bathymetric mapping from acoustic data, and the work package leader, Professor Paraskevi Nomikou, is here to give you more information, and I think she's very happy to do that. The second group of services is seafloor mosaicing from optical data, while the third one is seabed classification, and we'll give you more info later on. The second group of our services, next slide please, is dealing with atmospheric services. The first one deals with atmoflood, eddy covariance, a very famous algorithm and method, and gradient method also for atmospheric measurement. Also, the second set of our services deals with atmostress and atmospheres, the monitoring atmospheric precipitation in active tectonic regions. And the third service coming from atmospheric group, dealing with weather pollution, weather forecasting and air pollution. Next slide, please. We go in to the space, to the third group of our services dealing with space. And we're supposed to bring 3, but we're providing 7 services up to now, and we hope more. Maybe Eva, work package leader from space, will tell you more. And from atmospheric sector, Nikos Chondros is representing today the atmospheric services. So coming again to space, we have space-oriented services dealing with data visualization, with map making and mosaicing, and also for structure detection and machine learning. You see below the space services how many end users have validated up to now the services of space. And next slide, please. We're going now to Course for Cloud. We are very happy to see you and listen to your questions. Petra is representing Course for Cloud.
Yes, good morning. Can
Good
you hear me?
morning.
Yeah.
Yes, nice to see you.
Okay.
Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right. So basically, Course for Cloud, the main aim or goal is to connect citizen science with the European Open Science Cloud. And this is done by connecting different infrastructure of citizen science, the citizen observatories, through some integrative co-design services. A little bit to explain this, the next slide, please. We need to take into account that probably one of the global challenges for the environment is that now we realize that we need more data everywhere at all times. And citizen observatories can play a very important role at combining or complementing the measurements that we can obtain with advanced technologies, because people are everywhere all the time. So that's why they can provide this complementary data. And this, considering this challenge, and the next one, please, we may think that one of the first internal services within the citizens observatories is the services that allows the validation of the observations provided by different volunteers. Depending on the type of the citizen observatories, the way to validate that could be a little bit different. We have put here two different examples. One is based on collaborative validation. So people within the citizen observatory, other volunteers that in some cases are more expert or more advanced can help on validating that data. In other cases, the validation could be completely automatic. And you can see here examples of the different citizen observatories that has been involved in Course for Cloud. And you can see some of them are more related to biodiversity, others to environmental quality. And all of them have this type of validation systems. And the next one, please. So the idea behind, or the main goal behind Course for Cloud, it's rather combined with external cloud-based services, connecting the different citizens observatories to have an overall more efficient way, to collect data and to validate them. This is one of the examples of the different services we are dealing in Course for Cloud. And in the next one, please. So basically, I will not go in detail because there is not much time to identify those services, but nevertheless, just keeping in mind that we have one first stage in which we try to create these external services and more focus on those citizens observatories oriented to biodiversity monitoring. Later on, in a second stage, we include also all the citizens observatories that deals with environmental quality. And finally, we plan to create a method to develop those services to ensure that in the future, other citizens observatories that deals with a completely different domain can also use this idea of this methodology of external service creation. And if you want to be part of the Course for Cloud community, you can be involved in the co-design of those services. You could be also part of the panels, advising of the new requirements or new goals, and also testing this idea of collecting, combining different types of services. And basically you can see on top that, so the idea is to start with biodiversity, goes to environmental, and connect to other citizen observatory domains that will connect to other infrastructures that will participate in the European Open Science Cloud as well, such as the one shown here. And basically that's the idea of the contribution of Course for Cloud. Thank you very much.
We now pass to Triple. Clara?
Yes, so good morning, everyone. I will be presenting today in 4 minutes the Triple project, so the European Discovery Platform for the SSH. So we can go to the next slide, please. So what I want to highlight here is perhaps the challenge that we're trying to overcome in the Triple project. So currently there is a strong fragmentation of SSH research between the different disciplines, the different languages. So there is a difficult access to the resources that are available. So for sure, there is a low use and reuse of the data that are here in SSH, and consequently, some missed interdisciplinary collaboration possibilities. So that's what we're trying to come up with a triple project. Also for the broader context, triple is here to develop a dedicated service of the research infrastructure Opera, which operates in open scholarly communication in SSH in the European research area. So next slide, please. So what do we do in triple, basically? So what we want to provide is an innovative, multilingual and multicultural discovery solution for the SSH. In other words, we want to offer to the user a single access point that allows any user to explore, find, access, and reuse SSH resources. By SSH resources in triple, not only do we mean publication and data, but we also focus on researcher profiles and research projects. So far, what we offer through triple is a twofold approach. So first, we have a discovery portal for those data and publication in SSH, which is based on the Isidore search engine that has been developed by CNRS Humanum, who leads the project. And in addition to the discovery platform, we propose 5 different innovative services. So I've just listed them here. I don't have time to go into details, but so you know, and if you have a question later. And the prototype is expected for the end of this year. So maybe perhaps a word on our efforts and our focus to involve the different SSH communities to answer the very fragmentation I mentioned in the introduction. Indeed, throughout the triple project, we really try to put the emphasis on the implication of the community. So not only of the SSH research community, but actually beyond that. So we try to reach out to any member of the society who may find an interest in research project. We strongly emphasize a co-design process that is adopted within the different work packages and throughout the entire project duration. So we consider that users are really key to all phases of a project development. So from defining their expectation, their needs, to testing the first prototypes and so on. So that's really something we've been working on. And also quite recently, we are working on a user engagement strategy. So with both the triple and the Opera's different dissemination and communication tool. So far, we've managed to gather 2 kinds of operating tools. So first, some that are targeted to really gather sample of experts in certain disciplines on specific technical matters. Any person that may be interested in participating to the co-design of the triple services. And a second type is about reaching this community at large, as I've mentioned before. So for that, we've come up with different tools. So the forum, a newsletter, but also one of the innovative services that is being developed. So the trust building system, a social network to connect researchers and projects. So yes, so on the last slide, I've put different information, different links if you want more information, and I'm available if you have any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. We pass to INODE by Kurt.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kurt. Yeah.
Hi, Kurt.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. So my name is Kurt Stockinger. I'm from Zurich University of Applied Sciences in Switzerland, and I will represent the INODE project. It stands for Intelligent Open Data Exploration. Yeah, thank you. You can go here. And what we've seen before is in the first talk, we're talking about there are many data sets around, right? And people are already happy if they upload the data set. But I think uploading is not enough. We need to be able to analyze it more efficiently. And basically the main goal of INODE is to say, we need to access data and talk to data similar to a human person, right? And so we want to have a dialogue to the data, talking to it. If the system doesn't understand it, we should get something back. We want to do it in natural language. And the system should also guide us, you know, where are some interesting data sets in there, okay? And then in the end, we also want to visualize result and get real experience. We're focusing on 3 different application areas. This is astrophysics, cancer biomarker researcher, and research innovation. I'll give you a detail here. But in principle, the services we're building is generic. So think of it, this is like a better Google engine with visualization recommendation for any types of science data. So next slide. So everyone knows there are the different data sets, and if we only upload them, and that's, as I said, it's not enough. We need to be able to access them. Next slide. So the data is the new oil. If we can go to the next slide, please. So let's do first one. Let's take astrophysics, for instance. Why is this interesting? In astrophysics, we have the NEANIAS project also has astrophysics data, so we can, this is already something very complementary. So basically we're looking, we have a lot of amount of data about galaxies, and most of it is stored in relational databases, and our scientists want to study star formations, right? How does a supernova form? What do we see in the stars and so on? And understanding this, well, we have hundreds of tables and thousands of attributes is very hard, right? So we don't want an astrophysicist to be an expert in database stuff. They should do physics. Next application is biomarker cancer research, and it turned out that this is, you know, within the COVID era, we were actually lucky that we have this data. So there, what we're dealing with, you want to find cures for treatments, right? And especially in cancer. Why is this challenging? You have 50,000 human genes and about 3 million base pairs. Understanding biology data is also pretty hard, especially if there's a medical doctor or a bioinformatician and they have these huge data sets. How should they be able to understand and then explore anything? And then the third application area that we said is research, innovation, policy making. So we're looking basically at European Union project. And Clara before from the Triple project also said that you're also looking at this project. So this is something similar. So how can we analyze the CORDIS database and how can we find what interesting European Union projects are maybe working on artificial intelligence and so on. If we go to the next slide. So the thing is, why is this hard? And I give you just a specific example. Clara, in the Triple project, you said you work on SSH. For you, it's quite clear what SSH means. I suppose it stands for social sciences and humanities. I'm a computer guy. When I hear SSH, it's the secure shell, right? So it's one term. You never told us what it is. And you assume that within the context, everyone else knows there. I would say you're lucky because you're in the context. If you're not in the context, it could mean something different. And this is why human language is hard. It's ambiguous. And we need to get rid of all these abbreviations. I saw many talks today where I had all the abbreviations. I think we need to be very specific. And if we build a generic search engine, if you will, with a little bit guidance, the system needs to tell us SSH, what does it mean? Do you mean social security or do you mean social science and humanities? So the system should tell us if we ask for a question, what does it actually mean and help us in the exploration. Okay, if we go to the next slide, please. So here's the architecture what we're doing. As I said, we're building this system and we have started already. So the goal is that we say we can data in any format. So it can be a relational database, astrophysics data stored in a relational database, or cancer biomarker or medical data stored in graph databases. A lot of data is stored in graph databases. Or we take medical journals, right? All publications in medicine, we want to, this is stored in text documents. We also want to integrate them. In the end, the goal should be that you have one query system where you can say, you can easily find information that you will, and the systems helps you in discovering it. And then we also heard before, it's nice to integrate data. It's very hard to integrate data. Uploading just the data set is simple, but integrating the biology data with everything you know about researchers in biology and relating it with the newest results in cancer research is not trivial. So that's why we also have some what is called data linking and modeling services, modeling the data, linking them, and do it in a semi-automatic way. Automatically, it's very hard, as you know, every one of you who has built data models, and we've been doing this for quite a bit, it's non-trivial. So next slide. Here, I'll give you a little bit example of what we've done. So all the services that I've shown you before, we have integrated already in a search engine, if you will, which enables visual exploration. So let's say what you can do here, find all the projects that started before 2016. This is a natural language question. In the background, you don't see that you have a Cordis database in a relational database, and maybe some text document that we processed and brought in. So what is going here is this natural language is translated into the underlying computer language. It can be SQL as a structured query language, it can be Sparkle and so on. So we translate a natural language into computer language, similar to how you translate English to French, if you will. We translate it basically to this. As a result, we get information about projects. So we see maybe there's some projects about exchange and Inspire in Europe, and there's something about ecological correlations. You see something about the project, the volume of the project. You see from which call they are. You know, some of them are from FP7, the other one Horizon 2020. So you get an easy way of exploring it. Also, what we do is we translate natural language to a computer language, and then we translate it back. So the system gives us an explanation what it actually understands. And if you look, the original question we defined was find projects started before 2016. The system gives back, and this is what it's more or less in the middle, where it says value net find everything about projects who start years less than 2016. So basically this is translated back. The system tells us what it understands. If I type find SSH before 2016, it might give us 3 examples of SSH, right? And then it says, which one did you mean? You can choose, or it suggests, it ranks the result based on some domain logic in the field. And okay, then the next slide. Okay. What is important here, as I said, it's generic software. It's like Google works generically. Our system also works generically. We focus on 3 specific areas: astrophysics, cancer marker bioresearch, if you will, and innovation. But again, so for all the people who are on the call, I think with NEANIAS, we have an obvious collaboration point. Also with Triple, I would say, since you work on humanities, where we have a lot of data and text data, if you will. So we could also integrate this. So it would be nice basically to have new users, new use cases, getting them in there. And I think it's a good opportunity to do this now. Okay, that's it from my side.
I think you opened the next question, the first question of the open discussion. We opened the discussion through our projects and to the audience. And the first question to our projects altogether is, which is the percentages and the perspectives of linking and communication and synergies between our projects. And I think Kurt gave us already the first option, how to communicate between NEANIAS and INODE for data regarding astrophysics. I open the floor also to our service providers and work package leaders, Eva from Space, and Evi Nomikou from Underwater, and Nikos from Atmospheric, Nikos Controls, and also Memo Arisopoulos, our project coordinator. And I'd like to pass the floor to Kurt first, and then to Clara, Yom, to express their feelings about the communication liaison possibilities between our projects. Kurt already gave us the glue, how the search engine would be used for Triple, and how Triple can feed us with more information regarding INODE, the search engine. Please, Yom.
Sorry, Eleni, I had some problems with the connection. Could you repeat?
Okay. Yes, okay. My first question, as Kurt triggered the question, is how is the percentage and how you feel we're going to liaise between the findings and the offerings of our projects, and how you see the linkage between us?
Yes, well,
Kurt already gave us some ideas and some perspectives of cooperation. I don't know if you
well, basically, as you mentioned, you are collecting some data or dealing with different types of domains, and there are some of them that are very direct link with citizen science, you know, because, for example, with underwater aspects, or even with astrophysics, there are several examples in which, you know, the volunteers are now actively participating. So probably what we will need is to find the way, to connect these common areas of interest in which we can then later on to establish these links between those different services that could somehow, complement the goals, and not only with NEANIAS, but with the rest of the projects. I can see that there are many areas of interest in which it will be quite easy, to integrate or to complement the services that we are developing in our project and those services that are developed in the rest of the projects.
Sean, you brought up an interesting thing, because especially in astrophysics, there is this discovery of this kind of green pea galaxies. It's a special type of galaxies, and this is exactly the result of a citizen project. So astrophysics data was given to citizens and they analyzed it. And why was this possible? Because they had an easy mechanism of playing, let's say, with astrophysics data. Do you have this also in your project?
Many possibilities. We have to close. Sorry for that.
Oh, we have to close already. Wow, now the discussion.
Food for thought for the next cooperation. And Clara, just one comment. And keep your questions and your possibilities and perspectives for cooperation for the next meeting. We have to leave, sorry.
Okay. So do we get automatically transferred into the...
Yeah.
Yes.
Here. Thank you very much for cooperation and participation. Thank you, Yom. Thank you, Clara.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks to you all. Yeah.
You now.
Sorry, we only have a short time.